So welcome to this River Publishers book discussion. I'm Philippa Jefferies and I'm with Rute, Sofia and John Soldatos to talk about their forthcoming open access book, Shaping the Future of IoT with Edge Intelligence, which presents how 5G, 6G, Edge AI and blockchain solutions enable novel IoT-based decentralized intelligence use cases at the edge of the cloud and IoT continuum. So Rute, John, thank you so much for joining me today. Perhaps, John, you can start by introducing the book a little bit and how it came about.
Thank you very much, Philippa, for having us. So, Rute and myself were involved in a European project, Nation and Support Action, that was destined to support the European Internet of Things community. And as part of this coordination effort and our coordination activities, we worked closely with research projects that develop cutting-edge solutions for edge computing and Internet of Things. So we were organizing the results, we were curating the results, presenting the results, and also helping them with standardization, with dissemination, communication of their outcomes, and also scientific effort. So that's where the idea of the book was generated, having a portfolio of very interesting outcomes, very innovative, very cutting edge. We thought that it was really worth presenting them in a consolidated way, in a structured way, in a book, and also making this book open access so that the community has free and unlimited access to those results.
Great, thank you. Rute, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, sure. So John said pretty much all, but basically, so these are 6 flagship projects. As said, they were run between 2020 and are finishing now, most of them. So this is quite interesting because the book speaks about, let's say, research results that are really fresh over the last 3 years, and they also provide an input into use cases that are available, which I think is also very interesting for the research community. So concrete use cases deployed on operational environments across Europe.
Okay, thank you. So now kind of to the book topics more generally. So firstly, the book covers the use of 5G and 6G networks. How can these help boost edge intelligence and IoT applications at the edge?
So the book is about, let's say, a specific aspect of 5G, 6G, which is actually the IoT edge cloud continuum. So in 5G and 6G, we can go to the telecommunications part, etc. So in the book, the topics that it covers different approaches. So ranging from the networking, from the infrastructure part, more related into the telco part of 5G, up until the application layer. So meaning, for instance, the interaction, tactile internet, the interaction between the user and IoT. So this is, let's say, what I think is somewhat different than the books that we also see in this area in between 5G and 6G is the fact that it covers this end-to-end spectrum and also covers, let's say, vertically speaking, it addresses topics that go from the networking part until, I would say, the data spaces part. So interaction, data spaces, semantic interoperability aspects, and so on. And the other aspect that I think it is interesting, as said, so there are different use cases. So these are applications to IoT and the edge that cover different vertical domains, in particular manufacturing, and also, for instance, farming. So there are several use cases covering these aspects.
Exactly, and maybe, in layman terms, we could say that for some of the applications, the future applications that are coming in the edge, the existing mainstream networks are not enough, right? So take autonomous driving, right? An autonomous car needs to take 10 driving decisions per second. So you understand the speed of the velocity of information collection and information processing has to be much more intense than current networks allowed. And another example, I think Rute mentioned, we have this user interaction, which will be happening with different modalities, like what people, metaverse, augmented reality, virtual reality. And there, if you really want to have these applications in a true immersive environment, the latency, the delay of the application has to be really small, below 1 millisecond, right? Because that's the limit where the human perceives a distance, right? So in a true immersive environment, you need to lower this below 1 millisecond. And you can read in the book applications like this, right? From some of the contributors, you can read examples of augmented reality applications that are really immersive, and they allow you to industrial systems from remote. So
and that's
6G.
I was going to say, is this where the research into 6G is coming through as important? Okay, great, thank you. And another thing the book covers is AI. So I was just wondering how AI comes into this and what are kind of the challenges of using AI at the edge.
So AI is, of course, the core. As explained, this was a set of projects, I would say possibly the first, between 2020 2023, that started addressing the decentralization of AI in a more practical way in Europe. So this means pushing it to the edge, to what we call today the far edge. And so this means that there are a few, so we are in the starting point of this. And there are, of course, several challenges. So, for instance, one is, of course, developing lightweight AI. So that is now today, I would say, we have different approaches. So the so-called tiny ML integration of AI in software, in hardware, which is something that is also sort of a breakthrough. For instance, we have neuromorphic computing. And in that context, there is an adaptation of AI. Other aspects relate really with this decentralization, where the intention is to create models that are hierarchical. So, example of federated learning, that is one of the most common patterns, let's say, of machine learning. But also going beyond that, really making it work on edges that may be very, very constrained. So these are, I would say, some of the main challenges. Of course, this also brings decentralization, implies that, so we are pushing some of the training and some of the learning and data adaptation, validation to the edge, which then implies other types of security, for instance, other types of trustworthiness. So, and these are also challenges that these projects addressed.
John, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I think Rute described all the in a very complete and a very nice way. What I would say is that we are transitioning in a new era where artificial intelligence is not just about processing very large data set in a cloud computing infrastructure. First of all, because the data are not residing in the cloud, anymore, right? In their majority, and also because running artificial intelligence on very large data sets, even when they are available, is not always the best thing, because it's not the fun, and it's not the greenest thing, right? It's not very sustainable, very green. So that's why you need to be able to run artificial intelligence, to run machine learning closer to the field. And you need to run it on devices, on IoT devices. You need to run it on gateways, and you need to do it, as Rute explained, with less data. So this means we need to have a new era of data efficient artificial intelligence methods. So it may sound mind blowing for people that hear us, but with tiny ML, you can execute a deep neural network even on a microcontroller, or on a really tiny device without any remarkable central processing capacity unit, which is very exciting. And it turns out that with some techniques, you are able to do this. So you are going to read examples of this in the book, along a lot of other cases where artificial intelligence is decentralized and pushed towards the end, closer to the field than closer to a centralized remote data center.
Oh, fantastic. I just want to take it back quickly to something Rute said about security and trustworthiness in AI. That's something that's being talked a lot about and at the moment, especially in the news. Kind of what security or privacy challenges specifically do you think edge intelligence and AI and IoT applications at the edge bring?
So in fact, I mean, when we compare edge to cloud, okay, and we have two examples in particular in manufacturing, I would say that security attacks, for instance, may be better controlled if we are speaking about placement on the edge, okay? Because actually when we say edge, this means that the data is actually in the customer premises. So this means that in fact, the data stays with the customer. However, of course, we are decentralizing. So we are using patterns that there's always support from the cloud. So of course we can replicate something in the edge with large servers, but there's always a part in the cloud. So this also means decentralization. And there it implies, in fact, that we need to ensure that the edges are trustworthy. So we need to ensure that the data sources that are collecting and the edges that are interconnected to the cloud are trustworthy. So we need mechanisms that ensure, certification mechanisms, okay, that ensure that the data that is flowing and also the adaptation of the models is still trustworthy, so that we are not injecting into a system that is not decentralized malicious, let's say, parts. So I would say that is one of the key issues. So it's sort of trustworthiness and privacy preservation in this new environment, so decentralized environment. So it's an old problem from a research perspective, comes from distributed systems, but of course now has a completely, let's say, new level because of the complexity of the AI part. What do you think, John?
No, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of edge intelligence when it comes to security, right? That you get right away some security, privacy, and data protection benefit. So, like, you know, your personal patient sensitive data of a patient do not need to move outside of the hospital or the healthcare provider, because you can process them in the edge. So primarily you get security and data protection and privacy benefits, but as Rute mentioned, and that happens with all nice things, they solve one problem, but they can introduce other problems, like you know, what happens if you have a new device. How do you know it is trusted, right, to join your edge intelligence network or your AI network? And you can read in the book, we don't have a dedicated chapter on security, but all the authors on their contributions, they address the issue of security because it is really important. And in some cases, you will see some propositions like blockchain solutions to provide extra transparency and extra trustworthiness on a decentralized network. So we don't have a part of the book which is dedicated to security, to privacy and trust, but this is a cross-cutting horizontal dimension, so you can read about security in many of the technical chapters of the book.
Okay, great, thank you. Unfortunately, we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but I just wanted to end by asking if either of you would like to highlight any of the key case studies or projects that are featured in the book.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Philippa? I could not hear.
Yeah. Would either of you like to kind of highlight any of the key case studies or projects that are featured in the book?
Yes, so I mean, all of them are actually very good, I would say. I think that so there are interesting use cases coming from all, let's say, success stories. I would also highlight that there is, in addition to the book, there is a flyer about this if the reader is interested also in understanding better the use cases. So UIoT developed a flyer. It can be found in ngiot.eu. And it tells the success stories of all the projects. So with a small explanation of each use case, I would say that we have some interesting use cases very different. For instance, we have in Ingenious, we have a pilot, and in Valencia, in the ports of Valencia, so huge pilot, using AI to assist in monitoring and also managing the fleets of containers in the port. So this is quite interesting because it's very, very practical, okay, and so an interesting integration. We have also, for instance, an automated system, I think in Intel IoT for agriculture, also interesting. So meaning a vehicle automated, but actually for farming. That's also very interesting. And in Vedel IoT, I would highlight this one because it's about hardware. So Vedel IoT developed some, so a new architecture, or extensions of RISC-V, and the integration of AI there, and they have a very interesting use case for, so let's say health, so more related with the user, based on a smart mirror. So integration of AI, feedback to the user, information, okay, based on context, and that's quite interesting. But there are other use cases that are also equally interesting.
John, would you like to add at all to that?
A lot of sectors. So you can think about agriculture, manufacturing as well, transport cases. So a lot of this maritime port management case. But I'll take advantage of Rute answering the question very well to say that at the end of the book, at the last part of the book, we also cover business models for edge intelligence, and we also cover training and skills. So we have a couple of chapters on these because these are important complementary aspects of any technical or any scientific solution. And we thought it would be good to have a part of the book, that's actually the fifth part of the book, discussing these as well. So yeah, they're not related to your question. I took advantage of Rute giving a very good answer to add this.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both of you. It sounds like there's a lot in that book to be excited about. Thank you both for joining me today, and yeah, congratulations on finishing your book.
Yeah, and let's remind that it's open access, so and unlimited access to all the scientific community. So we would be really happy if everyone who listens to this interview downloads the book, right? It's completely free. And of course, they can order from River Publishers.
Yeah, definitely. I will link the book. Great. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, Rute.
Thank you, Philippa.